Channel log, Thursday 17th of March 2022. I'm paying a well overdue visit to Glengoyne Distillery to begin filming for the Caledonian Heritable Distilleries project. On a personal note, I'm looking forward to finally getting to meet a living legend in the whisky industry. And meet him I did. We'll be getting to that a little bit later on. Today we're looking at the Glengoyne 12-year-old, and I've got a little sample here which I brought home from that very day, which is why we're looking a little bit at sort of what we filmed whilst we were there. Now then, you're not going to get like the full thing because it's for a project, but I'm allowed to use some snippets of it, so you'll get to see kind of like sort of what we were doing. It's a very it was the first one. It was the pilot, so it tickle rough around the edges, but it'll do the job. And it's really exciting actually in that my professional life and my personal interests are kind of merging together now. It's a nice kind of, tell me like 6 years ago that would happen, wouldn't have believed you. So it's I do love my job sometimes. Hello everyone and welcome to John Drinks, the channel where I, John, have a drink, and today we're going to be looking at the Glengoyne 12-year-old. If you want to hear more about weekly whiskey videos and stuff like that, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the bell notification icon because it tells you when I do things. Basically keeping tabs on me, really. So that's, you know, fun. It's tricky with Glengoyne because you usually consider either a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old to be sort of the entry level. Glenallachie have done something strange recently and released an 8-year-old superseding the 12, and also they've got a 10, which is a cast strength, so... But Glengoyne do both a 10 and a 12, and as I discovered on that fateful day, they're quite different from each other. Actually, I didn't cover the 10 that day. Fun story, we forgot to record the 10 on that day, and we had to do it about 2 weeks later, and I was sick as a dog. And we didn't get an opportunity to go back to Glengoyne, so we had to film it in Edinburgh. And that we discussed kind of like, is there a way we could like mock up the distillery in Edinburgh? And we quickly went, do you know what? We fucked this. Let's just own it and take responsibility and say, on camera, we've screwed up a little bit here. We filmed this in a complete, because also my voice was completely gone. So it was like any potential pretense of trying to pass it off was just gone. With all the teething problems we were having, Gordon was really forgiving and understanding because he also is one of the hosts of the Whiskey Unscripted podcasts. You may have listened to it. I've really gotten into podcasts recently. I say recently, like the last few months. And I'm enjoying them so far. I don't think Gordon's released anything in a minute, or at least nothing's come from my feed. He might have done it, might have gotten missed. I should have a look at that. But yeah, they were really good about it, which was lucky for kind of like having a pilot there because they know what the process can be like. So yeah, that was fun. So we came away with the 12-year-old, and I've also got a sample of the 18-year-old, so we'll be getting round to that. And I also came away with a bottle of the Teapot Dram, which I've already covered on the channel. There'll be a card somewhere, hopefully, if I remember to do my housekeeping on this. But this is the 12. One of, again, two entry levels, really. 10-year-old and the 12-year-old, quite different. The 12, from what I remember from it, was a little more sherry, a little more fruity. Again, more kind of like chocolate and walnuts. Very appley, very fresh fruit on this one. Quite zesty, bright, and a little cakey as well. Now, the problem with me doing a tasting several months after I've recorded myself doing a tasting is I haven't watched myself back yet. So, well, it might be the case that when we do the tasting from the past, that my notes do not tally at all. And I could have, you know, solved that by just watching it back and just copying myself, but why didn't I do that? Why didn't I think to do that? That's a little silly of me. It's a chocolate apple. Green apples, milk chocolate, lovely cakey vanilla, little bit of lemon zest in there as well. It's light, fruity, sweet, comforting, quite a rich mouthfeel. There's a sherry presence to it, which you'd expect, Glengoyne. It's a lovely dram, it is. Now then, I know a lot of people like to knock more sort of the entry levels that aren't 46% non-chill or natural colour and all the rest of it. What I would argue back to that is that, you know, you got to start somewhere. And it is, as amateur enthusiasts, we would beholden ourselves from time to time to remember our place. These guys are professionals, you know, they're knocking it out. This is their day job, this is what they do. Some of them have been in the industry for a very long time, and I'm not being an apologist, you know, there are some poorly made entry levels out there. This isn't one of them. I've had the 12-year-old now quite a bit this year, and I've enjoyed it every single time. I've done the filming for this that I'm doing right now. I've done the filming at Glengoyne. There was a tasting at the Counting House. I've had it quite a bit. And I haven't stopped just vibing with it. It's just, 'tis a wonderful thing. A wonderful liquid. But it would be probably better off if I hand over to myself in the past and Gordon at the actual distillery. So here's something from the past about me talking about whiskey whilst the birds are trying to get in on the act.
Absolutely, this is the Glengoyne 12. So we saw the distillation, then the maturation, 12 years in sherry casks and 12 years in bourbon barrels. So it's a wonderful balance, a wonderful combination of bourbon cask matured whiskey and sherry cask matured whiskey combined together by our master blender. And remember, it's all from Glengoyne, so it's still a single malt. So here we've got that signature non-peaty, no smoke at all, that signature Glengoyne green appley fruitiness, but there's a citrus, a zestiness going on with the 12. And that lovely fresh citrus zestiness is balanced with a sort of toffee, a richness, an unctuousness from those sherry casks. 43% ABV, immensely sippable, immensely drinkable, and remember, no smoke here at all. Tour guides, and I was one of them, refer to this as a zesty toffee apple. It's got that zesty, almost sherbety, sort of, whoa, and a lovely bit of citrus with that richness of the sherry casks.
So if I'm struggling for tasting notes, basically just keep saying apple and I should be absolutely fine.
You're not far off with Glengoyne. Fresh green at the start, rich red at the end of the core range.
One of the very noteworthy things that you mentioned earlier on about this was that it comes from two different cask types, so you're kind of getting the best of both worlds of what we saw in the warehouse earlier on as well.
Correct. I refer often to this as the balance between the old world of the sherry casks and the new world of America, where those bourbon barrels come from. You expertly combine them together, all at 12 years or above. A little bit of water added at bottling to bring it down to 43 ABV. And that's a wonderful whiskey if you want to pair it with seafood. I think anything, when you talk about citrus, if you're eating anything, fish or scallops with a bit of lemon or lime drizzled over it, the 12-year-old is a wonderful partner for that type of food.
Maybe.
Absolutely, with that Glengoyne. Slanjava.
Slanjava. Straight off the bat, toffee apples. Yeah.
Once you get that in your head, it's like, I get the apples first, then you do get the toffee going through.
It's the other way around for me. I got more toffee first, and then maybe I've just got more of a sweet tooth. I don't know, but
well, that's the wonderful thing about whiskey. You know?
It's entirely subjective. I've had some off the wall tasting notes from people in the past, and like that tastes like chewing on a plaster. And I was like, at what point have you done that? Why?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you know, it's subjective. It's everyone's personal experience with it, which is.
And I think that's what's great about it. It evokes memories, and all taste buds and slightly different. They're all wired into your brain. And remember, flavour is there in your head. It's like your taste buds are sending it to your brain's interpreting it, and that flavour is a combination of flavor, is nose and taste equals flavour, and the flavour in this is just wonderful. It really keeps on. It's a nice long to medium finish.
And you're not going to encounter too many people that haven't ever had an apple before. suppose. So it's a nice, approachable whiskey. It's not something where you're going to taste it and be like, I don't know what that tastes like.
Yeah.
It's a very good introduction to whiskey as well.
And it's that green apple that we talk about at the distillery at the New Make Spirit. It's kind of unusual. That slow distillation gathers all the fruitiness. We don't have smoke to impart flavour. It's got to come from the way we distill and in the best casks that we can source. So that's where the flavour comes from. But yep, 12 years, a long time to wait.
Oh, thanks, Past John, whatever it is that you said, and Gordon as well, obviously. The day that we spent Glengoyne was fantastic. Fun story, my first distillery. Would you believe it? I know. I was telling Cody that recently when we were going around Tom and Tal. I've been making up for lost time. And he was like, you what? That was your first distillery like 4 months ago. I was like, yep, that was the first one. I was like, bloody hell, you've got a whiskey channel. What are you doing? I was like, I don't know, okay? I was planning on going to Glengoyne back in 2019. I don't know if you remember 2019, 2020. Bit of a rough year for travel, so didn't end up going. I mean, I probably could have gone in 2019. I just, kind of put it off thinking, yeah, there's time. Oh, silly, naive Past John. It's a fantastic, wonderful whiskey. Before I wrap this up as well, I will quickly talk about the actual distillery. So we did get the opportunity to have a proper look around the place. It was a bloody horrible rainy day when we were recording bits outside. There's a few bits and clips that I'm a little bit worried we might not have got the audio because it was also blowing a gale. So that's fun. And we also got an opportunity to have a look at some of their blending rooms. They do like a blending tour, and they are also doing a storytelling tour there as well. They're very they can't host a lot of people because of the size of the distillery. If you've ever been, and now I can say I have, it's a compact distillery. It's a wee thing. It was one of the things that kind of like drew me to the idea of visiting it in the first place. Is it's cute and wee. All the staff there were bloody wonderful. It probably helps when you love what you do, to be fair. But also, we just got to kind of go into the blending room and play around with like various different cask samples that they had laid out, and just kind of get to geek out about the various kinds of clearly excellent whiskey that they have got on show there.
54.4%. So single cask
on your chest.
That's your first fill bourbon. That's a 2004. And that's a 55.7. So no water added, straight from the warehouse. And then you've got your American oak. Sherry cask, it's from 2000. That is a 22-year-old single cask American oak. And you're talking 57.5% ABV.
I'm a sucker for sherry.
I know. So if you are, the next two is going to be, you're going to love it. So here's two European oak sherry casks, darker, slightly lighter in colour. So same wood, but just shows you each cask is unique. So this first one is from the year 2001. It's 55.2%.
I haven't actually spoken much about this myself, and that's because, I mean, it's one of the wonders of having a pre-record on that one. But let me know down below, what are your thoughts on the Glengoyne range? Do you have a favourite? Are you not much of a fan of kind of like the earlier stuff? Is there anything in particular that you miss? I know a lot of people are a fan of the 14-year-old, and don't worry, I can get to that at some point. But for now, though, I will say thank you very much for watching. And do join me next time, where I'll be drinking something else.